Hello, I'm starting again because I just realized I was muted after watching this video. So, this is round two. I was looking in this area here because of this video, is what I was saying, and so I played this, so we're going to play it again, and what he says is very intriguing, so let's hear it. Hopefully I unmute myself this time.
Look, the Palghat gap, which is Palakkad gap here, right? This one is you see, and this is precisely the reason that monsoon winds also pass through this area, and you have very pleasant weather out here. People in Bangalore, they always talk about weather conditions. How does it happen? Because of the gaps. Otherwise, it was on the leeward side of the Western Ghat. There would not have much thing happening here in terms of weather, but because of these gaps here, this is actually leading to the good weather condition, good rainfall and agriculture and so many things. So Pal.
Okay, I unmuted this time. Cool. So, if we go like this, oh, I did it already. There it is. Essentially, this is the gap. Here, that he's talking about. So it's going, apparently, air flow is going in here and reaching this city here. So it led me to look at the terrain to a point where I thought, well, it looks like it actually, like, there's a boundary here. Generally, like, that then another boundary here, so it's kind of like going in there before the earth expanded, or as the earth is expanding. This is happening, and then going up this way, and some of it like tried to join this other current that was coming from Antarctica that we've talked about in several last videos, going really through to China and entering an eddy. Where here, it's trying to get through. Some of it gets through, but some of it deflects this way, creating this boundary between possibly like another place through, but essentially a boundary, which this type of thing is also happening. Like here, plays through. There's places through, not here, but further up along the coast of these passes like this, doing similar things, where a current flow is doing something like this, creating a boundary and then cutting through it because it's bending along that boundary, and then in this case eddying against, seemingly there's some kind of resistance generally here, like in that area, that's, or just like a lot of water, like a bulk area that just wasn't necessarily in flow, but was more pressured. Some reason I haven't really considered. It looks like there is like a, well, let's go like this. Looks like there's something going on like this. It's like, so that maybe is generally applying a pressure, or maybe like it's going up here and applying a pressure here, which then is applying a back pressure, holding a pressure here maybe. To a point where an eddy forms here. even though the currents are like flowing through and it's way more complex, a general eddy forms there to just kind of push out boundaries in this space here. It looks like there's also, maybe it's going the other way. Maybe it's going this way. Over top this stuff. Because it looks like up here it's doing it too, really. Like here. Let's look at the map. Like up to here, across that way-ish. Like a general area. Maybe there's an eddy centered here then. So this got me to thinking about stuff. This whole, the video on the area, I thought that was pretty cool and a good intro to what we're gonna look at, but it's really, I was watching some of the videos up here in this area. One thing he mentioned was this area is all desert up to the Air Valley range. And then over here it's more fertile, but the desert is encroaching, which is kind of interesting because this is where the mantle puncture hole was. Another thing I noticed, which hopefully I can remember, right here is generally where the center of the mantle puncture hole location is. As I dub it, this thing, 70 point, or just 70 and 25, about 70, 25, it's around there. Notice, like, up this way, if we follow this line down this way, there's this thing, and there's this path. So it's in line with these features, which is noteworthy. Noteworthy. And then I noticed this. Really, once I noticed, I'm like, oh. What the? That, ignoring Sarastra, just this shape. And literally going up to this point. Generally, like the general shape, and then connecting here, down through here, or wherever. Now we have this like wedge-looking thing, as if it was a wedge, some kind of energetic dividing point. And what do we see, though? Do you see what I'm getting at here? There's this thing. Then, if we look more closely at it, it's considered a fault system, apparently, because of how straight it is. But if you look over here, it goes right to here. It doesn't go to the edge here. It goes to here. Isn't that odd? Because so does the Doom shape. Doom shape. is it? People are like, what the fuck? There we go. The storm that the vortex that arises when ancient Dwarka is attacked by a vortex weapon, and a fierce vortex arises, blanketing the region with billowing dust. End quote. It then travels this way and interacts with the mantle puncture hole location in Pakistan, which then apparently this region becomes highly desert, arid, almost like it was this epicenter of this storm. And then east of it, the Air Valley Trend, which at this point I called this a sink. I still think there's something to this. This is considered like older than, it's Precambrian, so it doesn't really like, it generally is anomalous to what I'm saying. I'll put it that way. But notice there's this path right here that the Doom Shape goes. The Doom Shape storm goes over this way and goes to there, where then it goes this way over to here, but then it goes over here to right here, where it discharges into Gurnar. I don't know what just happened. Into Gurnar, while the Deccan traps are erupting. Because this is happening according to geological dating at the KT boundary at 66 million radiometric dating thereabouts, like leading into and afterwards also, but like particularly these details are KT boundary time frame when the Earth rapidly expanded because it broke apart at the KT boundary. Continents broke apart so that the Earth could expand from internal pressures. Okay, so Doom Shape went that way, and then it goes to here, which is right in line with this. So it's kind of odd, like if you go to my Earth's Undercurrents video, for example, let's see if I can find it like this. I suggest something like this is going on. The Doom Shape is over top this point where basalts are erupting from the Earth. And it is directing them this way. And then it accumulates a mass here, which then leads to deflection of the currents like this, especially this way, leading to the Doom Shape physically not being in a balance because it's going, the current that it is forcing into the area is going into this and deflecting, so it basically repositions over here. And then it goes down through this trail to here and influences this whole region. But now, why is this accumulating? Because there's a current flowing in over here from over there that's holding a boundary. So this flow is going across here, through here, holding a boundary that this then pushes into to extend into and form this mound, which maybe redirects the flow in part also. But forming this mound here, basically, because of this other current though, which then gives the credence or suggests that like there's another current boundary that was generally hugging some margin, like this margin and this margin and just generally hug this whole area. And any current that entered into this empty area that did not have the Deccan traps, it was more like this. Any current water currents that were flowing in that way were overwhelmed by this other current flowing, pushing out this way. So it's basically pushing away from this region, which gave space for the Deccan traps to erupt specifically into the bird head of Sarastran Peninsula and create it, literally, as part of the Deccan traps, but also emitting current down across it this way. Some of it getting across here, passing the current, because there's a current going through here. Some of it passes over here and fills over here, while some of it goes up over the other way. So let's see the exact map. With the thing in mind that it probably won't show unless it's precise enough. Narmada Rift, so I guess the volcanism goes across it. So maybe the current was actually flowing in. Possibly here. Cross this way. Although this looks like it's coming out this way. My thought is it's coming out. Well, initially I was thinking current is going this way over here and like joining the current that's going that way and leading to the river system that we see today, essentially. And that, like, imagine this area. Let's do it like this. Imagine this area has a current that's just filling it, flowing this way. That's however large, let's say, generally here though. Running into this other current over here, and other currents in other ways, and all sorts of stuff going on. But in essentially in a way where it like could not fully exhaust this to a point where maybe it exhausted this way is what I was thinking. Like it actually went back. It basically current went this way, passes this pressure region, because there's a lot of pressure over here pushing outward around it. Which is why this is like squeezing up here. But then it passes it, and then it reaches this like area where it basically is running into more and more resistance in front of it because of this other current. So it's just harder to flow where it can flow, so it becomes more stagnated, but then there's pressure behind it that's flowing in, so it basically offshoots is what I was thinking. And specifically along, that's why that like India looks like that, what the thing that I was showing, where it just has this like perfect, almost like not down here aside where it's probably more nuanced to why it's like that compared to more like straight, but then just kind of connecting through and then having this divide thing, that kind of goes down. It starts up high and then drops down to the divide, like an actual divide area, and then it seems to like vibrate, go down. Some of it goes down, goes back up. Some of it goes across here. Possibly at different times. Like as the doom shape's coming, it's flowing here. Then once the doom shape gets there, it redirects the flow to like go over this way more, like physically to exhaust down here below. Because at some point it exhausts lower to like extend out where this current is applying a boundary. Essentially like rifting, but just not doing it. Like dividing a current flow that is so potent that it's cutting the earth apart to a point where they then, geologists, we look at it and say that's a rift. But it was cut by water, basically. Which then apparently, the reason I think it was going from this way and out this way as opposed to coming out this way is because of this. Right here. When it does things like this, it suggests the current is flowing into it and then running into resistance and deflecting off and just cutting like into a hard boundary and then flowing, hard boundary, flow, boundary, flow. Doing something like that as opposed to the other way. Like how does a flow going along this boundary cut this shape here? It like flows past it and then somehow abruptly cuts in. I mean, I guess it could be because of some other current here. But then it does it again and again and again. This is more suggestive to me of a current. It even looks like it might have been like starting up here, like where, like up here. Around where the eddy was, and then going down this way, probably as the earth was expanding, because if we follow this path, all right, let's go like this. Not what I was expecting. Why did I think it aligned better before? This like triple point. Basically, I was thinking maybe like the current, basically where the currents are interacting. This one here is running over here, hitting this location. There's another current going this way. And it starts to move down though. It goes down, down until it goes down here. And it pushes down against this other current to the point where it moves it all the way down here to where their interaction is. So it was happening up here. Where their interaction was where the mantle puncture hole is, where all of the ammonite structures in the terrain are up here, where the doom shape was along this trail here. And it literally just went down this way to here. Like it shifted where their energetic interactions were, probably pushing it over. Maybe it was flowing directly up here, while this other current was flowing more directly into it, and then it pushed it to the side by doing all of this and opening this region. Cutting between Madagascar, which was over here. Like a flow going down here. So if we look here, notice this. There's like a boundary here. Boundary here. Boundary over here. Basically, I'm trying to follow this path and see if it, as it bends, like it looks like it might relate to there, which looks like it might relate to there, suggesting some big bend that had a boundary in the bend at this area that went down here, and that then fed all these these interacting currents fed into eddies, some of which happened here. And then those eddies, though, shifted because the currents interaction shifted. Let's see if I can do this. Where there was a current coming in, like generally here. And another current going in, like across here, maybe? Which then went along generally this boundary. So, cross, let's make it another color. Cross here. That then goes across this way before the earth expanded. And went up that way. But was really like over here too. Like it was very, very much, I don't know if right there. Oops, I can't erase on this. Like maybe there. In terms of here, this connected to like right over here. This gap wasn't there, so it just continued. And then this eddy was forming between them. That's generally like here. That has a nucleus somewhere like there. And then on that, though, is another eddy. In that is another eddy, and in that is another like eddy. So like basically super eddy here. This is like the super ultra eddy where the mantle puncture hole is. And then that is feeding this other eddy, which is feeding this other eddy, which is probably feeding all these currents in some way. Like it's interacting with the doom shape and drawing in these currents. Probably it's not just like these currents are coming here and then creating this eddy. This eddy is probably drawing in these currents because the doom shape is here creating the flood. But then actually, this pink one was, oh my god, was probably even like over here at a time, possibly, like further over. Let's just say possibly it was more here at a time and got shifted over just like it gets shifted over again. The reason I say that is because it looks like this green current is kind of shifting it. So it goes, the green one, from like a pressure point over in this area, starts shifting its pressure point to here into this current, and then shifting it over here. It makes me think that the current coming through, we'll say through this region, whichever way it is, we'll draw it both ways. I think it's like going this way though, and interacting like that. Not sure how that would be the case, and to like see it in the evidence, so maybe not. It might be that this green current is actually this red current just extending across this way and pushing in here. That seems more just basic and reasonable. It also goes to a similar point to where the green current goes over here. Like, kind of going to the same point as if it's just switching paths to a final location that ultimately goes over here. Because it's generally joining. Let's do this green current now. So let's just say possibly it's just joining. And at some point actually joining until this other current that went through this way cuts it off. But it's generally joining. And maybe also it goes across this way and generally just continues across through these paths. Until it pushes into this pink current though, and pushes it down, and pushes it down, and pushes it down, until the pink current reestablishes further away, or maybe even cuts off entirely ultimately and kind of just forces the pink current to join the green current and become part of the green current at some point. Dudes. It's also pointing right at the nucleus. It might be related to the current that passes through the nucleus of Africa. This like nucleus, the main nucleus of the continent of Africa that apparently exists in the region here. Similar to Australia, having like a nucleus. This one just way bigger, but then a current flow generally went across South America, west to east, northern South America at least, flowing across this way and into Africa. Although maybe it's going the other way. Could it be going the other way? If it's the flood currents and not undercurrents, I really need to determine exactly which one it is, if not both. I haven't revisited this because essentially I've interpreted them to be undercurrents because of Pakistan and the lack of visibility of this thing. It certainly happened at a depth where maybe modern times it appears to be undercurrents because they were happening at a depth relative to modern depths. Like, there's kilometers of dirt now that have been deposited, but when the flood was happening, a lot of that wasn't there. So it would have literally been at a depth without being at a depth being on the surface. I'm not sure, maybe that's the thing too. But the reason I'm like saying that is because, well, if it was that way, then like I should be able to interpret the magnetic anomalies of the Earth based purely on flood currents without undercurrents, and which seem to be not always the same. Like we can see this eddy here, this eddy here. So it's possible the thing going through the nucleus went up this way. Is what I was getting at. Through here. Some current went through here. One way or the other, a current went through this area. Here. And seemingly came out, possibly over here. Like at the horn. I believe that's called the Horn of Africa, right? At there, like at the tip though. Doesn't really, it's kind of blocked there. It's some blocked here somewhat. There's no like clear path because we can't even tell. It looks like it might have actually gone more over here even. That's pretty big. Pretty big stuff though. Even if it's not quite worked out. Just the relationships alone are huge. There's lots of details. I wish I could remember them. Maybe I can do this. Oh yeah, Myron Cook had a good video too. Oh man. Myron Cook came out with a new one too. Okay, here's some of the cratons. Myron Cook's video, cratons. So 88 million they're together. Cutting a current cutting through between here. And then they start to space at the KT boundary. And then the Western Ghats Formation has a like a graben type structure with these, I guess, faults, whatever these fracture lines in the earth that then abruptly drop down layers over along the coastline into the Arabian Sea. My thought is a current went through here, pushed into India, basically flowing along this area, pushing material over here though, compacting it into this Western Ghats as the current flowed through, and then some of it cut through and created passes. So this is happening. Different theories. This is one of the theories, is its relationship to the Réunion hotspot. So it seems they're not even sure when it happened, because this theory was dated more towards like the separation, I believe, 88 million, where this one is putting it more at the Réunion hotspot time frame of 50 million. And then relationship to Deccan traps, 66 million. Passive margin evolution, the breakup of Gondwana when these currents are flowing through. So this is kind of what it looks like. Force upward. There were some interesting details that I don't recall off the top of my head. But there's passes through at certain places. I don't know if any of these maps showed them. Like this gap. There's that gap again. Don't recall exactly. Okay, I don't recall enough. This is what we talked about. Okay. Before I just kind of flip through those to add a little more minutes for no reason. I was gonna draw on here. Wonder what's going on in this one. If I... Not useful for what we're doing. It's almost like it, if it did go east to west, that current underneath this one, if it did go east to west, maybe it's related to another current, like essentially flowing here along this boundary of the current going this way, another current going the opposite way, that maybe applied a general pressure through here to also assist in pushing it off this way, maybe. I don't know. Like there's even this here. That's pretty anomalous. Like everywhere down here, they're just trending west to east, because there's a current flow that's just flowing through here. That then, when the rivers literally were etched underneath this current flow, they moved with the current flow this way. But then this one didn't. This didn't. Probably because this has some like residual, or not residual, but some aspect of the current flowing through the opposite direction, maybe along this margin especially, kind of like applying a force through there before the Himalayas uplifted, while there's still like a capacity to flow a current through that path. Although this region might be a little more complex by needing to look actually over here. I suspect that region would actually be more appropriate to compare to over here. Are these all going the other way? Not many like major river systems here. I mean, where we see them, they are. Not sure if that would even be really abutting it, but definitely a current went through here. Generally off of here, through there, leading to a current through there, I guess. Just cutting. Okay. I'll see you guys next one. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.